So I totally forgot to film an intro before I put this makeup on. So I guess, should I just say it with this half of my face, or which one? Who wants to talk? Raise your hand. You? Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It is Ellarie here. Today I obviously filmed a makeup do's and a makeup don'ts. Common mistakes that I see from people out in these streets. I have to air quote anytime I say mistakes or don'ts because it's makeup, it's not that serious. Everyone has their own preference, and I've seen even the upper echelon of people wear lip colors and lip shades and foundation shades or whatever that I wouldn't wear. And they're professionals. I actually thought it was going to turn out a whole lot worse. I mean, it's bad, but it's not like bad. This is believable. Like, I could tell you, I've seen this girl. I've seen her. I may have even seen her today at the Walmart. But with a little tweaking, little like, we can get her on over here. If she wants to be here, you know. She might like it over here, I don't know. But first, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media platforms. And then come back and we can talk about my opinion when it comes to makeup do's and don'ts. Okay, so I'm gonna do my good side on this side of my face because it actually is my good side. And then I'm gonna do my struggle side over here. Same product that I normally use for my brows. Benefits Brow in 5. Mine is all dried out. I have a new one, but I actually like the texture better when it's a little dried out. So, but I'm gonna put more on the brush because sometimes I think a don't is when the brows are way too dark. I have done this before myself. A lot of these don'ts I've done before myself, but I don't be meaning to. I'm gonna start all the way at the front of the brow, which I don't recommend. Right on the hairline. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing at the top. Instead of starting further back as I usually do, I'm gonna start right where my brow starts. See how I'm already looking hotness. Alright, and another don't is filling the whole brow in one shade. Like starting from the very front and filling it all in with the product. That's not gonna make them look natural. My brows actually look like this back in the Disney. Yeah. So for the do side, I'm not going to put as much product on the brush because it's always better to start with a little and build it up as opposed to just starting with a lot and having to like fix and correct. And instead of starting all the way where my brow starts, I'm going to go a little bit further back so that this part is kind of lighter. And I'm going to go a tiny bit below my hairline. If you go a little bit below your hairline, when you clean up with your concealer, if you choose to do that, you won't go on top of your hair and be able to see that you covered your hair with your concealer. And even though I'm kind of still following my brow shape, I'm correcting it as well instead of just making my natural struggle brows look darker. You guys know like the 3-point rule, right? Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing at the top, not starting all the way in the front, but a little further back. And the tip of my brow is like the struggly part. I have to thicken it up a bit. So instead of going on the hairline, I'm going to pull it out a little bit more to make them look thicker on the ends. Now what I didn't do on this side, which I think is really important, is brush the product into the hairs. Not only does it take away the lines and make them look less harsh, but it helps blend the product in. I usually do that throughout the process. Okay, now I'm going to fill it in. Tips of the brows can be a little bit darker. I'm just filling in the gaps. But as I get towards the front of the brow, I use less product. And to fill in the front, instead of adding more product to the brush, there's already product on it. So I just kind of flick the product into the corner of the brow, kind of softly, so it doesn't apply too harsh. And if you end up applying too much product here on accident, you can always use your spoolie. Sometimes you have to kind of wipe the product off the spoolie because the spoolie can get dirty too. And like brush that area out to minimize some of the product. To clean, I usually always use a concealer that is like my skin tone or close to my skin tone because I feel like it minimizes the possibility of having that halo around your brow. Or you can use a concealer that's flesh tone at the top, and a lighter concealer at the bottom, but I just use the same color to clean the whole brow. For the concealer, I am going to start further out from the brow just to make sure I get the line really straight and pull it all the way to the arc to make sure I have a clean straight line. And then I use the flat part of the brush and go where the line starts and drag it down to blend out the concealer. And I'm going to do the same thing to the top, leaving that thickness that I added with the product, but just cleaning it up. And I'm going to brush it out one last time. And then a brow gel is optional. I'm using this one from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Very lightly, brushing my brows in place. Bam. So for the other brow, I would say a don't is using a concealer that's too light. Even though I've seen people do it successfully, if you're not that great with makeup, I would just choose to stick with a shade that's closer to your skin tone. But I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is the concealer that I'm going to use under my eyes. Tarte Shape Tape, and it's a pretty dramatic highlight when I use it under my eyes, so I feel like it's probably going to be too light for my brows, which is good in this case. So I'm pretty much going to do the same thing on this side. So even though I'm doing it the same exact way, because it's a lighter concealer, it doesn't look as natural. But I'm going to try to blend it in as much as I can. Okay, so as you can see off top, this one looks more natural. This one, not so much. Now is usually the time where I put on my primer. Some people can get away with not wearing primer. Ooh, woo! I know not everybody wears primer. I just have to. I can tell my face is way more like shiny at the end of the day if I don't wear one. It just helps your foundation apply smoother. It gives you like a clean slate to apply your makeup. Alright, so now for my foundation. My favorite lately, clearly because I'm sitting here trying to beat it out, the Lancome Tinted Duo Ultra Wear. I usually wear the shade 465 SUE. So I'm just going to blend this in. I usually go over my whole eye area as well, especially if I don't have makeup on already. Uh-oh. Went over my brow actually. Gotta fix that. I go into the ear, the neck, the hairline. So like I said, this is my normal foundation that I feel like matches my skin tone pretty well. So on this side, I'm going to use a foundation called Mocha. It is from Too Faced. I actually like Too Faced born this way. I think my real color is chestnut. I'll have to check on that. So this is what you're going to end up looking like if you go too light. And I'm not purposely trying to make myself look bad, but I swear I'll be seeing people like this. For real. So as you can see over here, I'm a little too light skinned. You know, even though I blended into the neck, you know, any further down, if I wear a V-neck, you gonna know that this ain't my natural color. So you want to kind of stick to your natural skin tone or a smidge shade darker is what I would say. So the concealer that I used to highlight this brow, I actually kind of blended with this foundation. I'm going to use it to highlight under my eye. So I like to use the pointy side of the Beauty Blender when I do my under eye concealer. I'm just going to blend this in, and I like to create a little line here for when I do my eyeshadow placement in my wingtip. It just helps me with symmetry. Go up the sides of the nose, up where the tip of the brow is. You can kind of blend out what gets on your eye with the bottom of the Beauty Blender. The side of the nose, if you have to pull it over, pull it over. And I usually use the excess to do my nose contour. It's hard to do on both sides, but now I'm going to show you a concealer that I feel like is a little too light for me. Instead, I'm going to use Too Faced Born This Way, and this is in the shade Fair. Ain't nothing fair about my skin tone. But I've seen people wear really white, that were darker than me, concealers and make it work somehow. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it, because you're going to have to fix and correct. And why do that when you can just use the right shade in the first place? And instead of going on the side of my nose, I'm going to stop right here because I see, oops, I kind of went on the side of my nose anyway. Well, what you don't want to do is stop right here, because once you do all your powders, you're going to be able to see that line where you stopped, instead of going up on the sides of your nose to like create your like natural nose contour. If you stop right here, it ain't gonna blend as well as it will if you go up on the sides of your nose. You don't need to go 10 times lighter than your skin tone or 5 times lighter. Usually about 3 shades lighter is good enough. This is about 5, 6, 7 shades lighter. On this side, I went as light as I said I would probably go, which is about 3 shades lighter than my skin tone. So for this side, I'm going to bake with my Sacha Buttercup powder. Back in the day, I used to let it just sit there and do my eye makeup, but I've found that if I just press it into the skin instead of letting it bake per se, that it looks a little bit more natural afterwards. So I just like to press it into the skin, nice good layer. I use the excess for my forehead, chin, and I usually add more to the nose, but I don't really have much room to work with over here. And then I press it into the skin to make sure it's applied evenly. So this is the part where I feel like using a yellow tone powder is important. Whether or not you use translucent powder or not, it brings warmth back to your skin as opposed to going straight to the translucent powder. So on this side, I'm going to show you what happens when you don't use a yellow based powder and you're of a brown skin tone. So I'm going to use everyone's favorite translucent powder, for example, the Laura Mercier, and I'm going to let this bake on the other side of my face. And I'm going to let it sit there until I finish my contour on the other side. So I can just show you how it's a little bit more difficult to dust it off if you let it sit too long. CoverGirl Queen Collection Ebony Bronzer, you know the drill. I usually am very soft-handed when I'm first applying just to see where I'm going. And this is a pretty dense brush that just helps me kind of put the product where I want it to go. And then I'll use a softer brush to blend it out. So this is the M570 brush from Morphe. And now I'm using the Becca contour brush to blend it out. I use a lot of powder on my face, which is why my under eyes get dry a lot. I usually have to use a lot of Hydro Boosts underneath my eyes when I clean my face. Powders are your friends, but they're not your friends to your skin. Like, they will suck the life out of it if you don't hydrate your skin. After my contour, I usually lightly go over the areas that I highlighted with the translucent powder underneath my contour. Forgot to contour my nose, so let me do that really quick. I'm using the same powder, but I'm kind of tapping it on my skin and lightly dusting it on the side of my nose. And usually when I put the translucent powder on, I put it a little bit heavier on my nose to help blend in that nose contour. Everywhere else I apply it pretty lightly. And then I use a foundation brush like this. This is from Cosette, the S123 brush, and my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. Instead of just using the Mineralized Skin Finish to dust it away, it's always according to your skin tone. In the wintertime, all I need is the Mineralized Skin Finish. But since I'm a little bit darker, I've been mixing it with Bare Minerals Warm Deep Loose Powder, a little darker than the Mineralized Skin Finish, so it helps me with color balance. And it also has a little bit more coverage, as if I need it anymore. So I dip it into the loose powder first, and then I swirl it on my Mineralized Skin Finish to dust away the translucent powder. This also helps get rid of any cast the translucent powder may have given to my skin. It warms it back up and looks more natural. So now I would dust away this side. I'm just going to use the same brush. There's a little bit of powder on it, but not much because I haven't added more. And I'm going to dust away this translucent powder on this side. If I have fair skin, I could dust it away easy without adding any tinted powder over it. But if you have brown skin, it helps to use a tinted powder when you dust away the translucent. Alright, now I'm going to contour this side. I'm going to purposely start really dark to show you why. Kind of want to avoid doing that if you can. And now I'm going to attempt to blend it in, but if I wanted it to blend in really well, I could probably make it if I sat here for a long time and blended it out. But I feel like people who add too much, the reason why their contour isn't blended is because they don't want to take that time that I would need to take to blend it out. Which I have, like I said, I've been the victim of looking at a picture and be like, dang, I could have blended my contour in a little bit more. But it helps if you just don't add so much in the first place. Now I'm going to go underneath the contour as I did on the other side. On this side, I kind of put it there and then brushed it away with my tinted powder. But if you let it sit there for too long and you have, like I said, brown skin, you will get that white cast that you don't want, I don't think. Now I'm going to move on to the highlighter. I'm using Maybelline's shade. I just got this the other day. Molten Gold. And I thought it looked bomb, so I want you to try it out today. I would say applying too much highlighter is wrong, but I do it all the time. So I'm going to add what I think is a good amount on this side and then do like what I feel like is going over the top. This is how much, ooh, this is really pretty. This is how much I usually like to add. Y'all, this highlighter is bomb. I don't even need much. So I think this is a good amount of highlight. You're going to see it in pictures. You're going to see it when you hit them angles. It's enough to me. I usually just use the excess for my nose, whatever's left on the brush, and my Cupid's bow. And then on this side, I'm gonna put what I feel like is when people do a little too much. This highlighter actually looks so good that I don't even think too much is possible, because I've added like 5 layers now and it's still got a poppin'. I don't know. It's a very thin line between too much and not too much. But now I'm gonna add some blush. I still struggle with accidentally putting on too much blush, so I'm gonna try not to put on too much today. I'm using the Rich Peach Baked Blush by Black Radiance. This is some of the same stuff I used in my last tutorial because it's still sitting right here. Only need a little bit. I'm just brushing this lightly in between the highlights and the bronzer. Technically, you don't want to see it too much when you're doing it. So I'm going to show you what happens if you dip it in there 5 times. Is that 5? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I didn't dust it off. This is too much. It looks like I put a rainbow highlighter on. Now I'm going to dust away this translucent. I don't know what's going on the side of the face. I wasn't even trying to make it look too bad either. But okay, now I'm going to do a quick eye look. I'm going to prime this eye, of course. Benefits Don't Stray in medium deep. And I'm not going to prime the other side because to this day I know people who don't wear eye primer and I don't get it. Like, I don't even have really oily skin, but if I don't wear a primer, I'm creasing. Like, it's gonna happen. It also helps your eyeshadows apply more evenly. So I'm gonna use that same Maybelline highlighter that I use on my cheeks, and I'm going to lightly go underneath my brow, mainly in this arc right here, and then blend it softly on the rest of the perimeter. And on this eye, I'm going to show you what it looks like when I feel like it's a bit too much. If you're doing more of a dramatic eyeshadow look, there's times where a really heavy highlighter brow does look really pretty. In my normal day-to-day life, I always wear a really natural eye, so I'm just used to just not highlighting my brow. So this side is my preference, where you can kind of see it and it looks really nice and soft. And this is when I feel like it looks like it's a bit too much. When it comes to eyeshadows, I always try to start with a flesh tone color. I'm using the Rose Gold, Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette. And I'm going to start with this color, matte, of course. You always want to keep like matte shadows in the crease. And I'm going to blend that in underneath the brow, circular motions. I'm going to go into Cocoa, which I feel like is too dark to start with for my skin tone. See how the transition into the highlight is like a little too harsh? And I'm not going to spend too much time blending this side because I feel like that's another don't. People just get so impatient and they get tired of blending. I do myself, so I get it. But that extra time you put in to blend the eyeshadows, the better it's going to look. So usually for my crease, the transition, I like to go at least 3. I feel like 3 is always a good day if I have time to go from light brown to dark brown, depending on the eye look. So the next color I'm going to go into is Henna, and I'm going to blend that in right under Sandalwood. And I'm going to go back with the other brush to blend the transition since it's the lighter shade. Then I'm going to add a little bit of Bossy, and I'm going to grab a smaller brush. You're more precise if you get a smaller brush when you start to work into the crease. And I'm going to kind of outline my crease a bit to give my lid some definition. And I always reverse the brushes when I add another shade just to make sure they're blended into each other. And finally on the lid, this same shadow that I used to start with, and I'm going to put that all over my lid. For this eye, which is already creasing because I ain't got no primer on, I'm going to go into this color called Moon Dust. And normally I would use a smaller brush than this because it's hard to place the eyeshadow exactly where you want it to go if you use these big old fat brushes for your lid. So I'm getting a lot more fallout. It's not going exactly in the place that I want. So typically you'd want to use a smaller brush than this. Now I'm going to add some eyeliner. I'm using Jouer's Matte Black. And on this eye, I'm just going to stay on the waterline. And on this side, I'm going to make it a little bit heavier, which is not a bad thing. Sometimes I do apply the liner heavy so I can smudge it out for a little smoky effect. I'm not going to do that today though because I'm hella hot in this room and I'm ready. I'm about to melt. So wing liner is all about preference too. Some people like it thick, some people like it thin. Just depends. We all know it's real easy for things to escalate quickly with the wing liner. Like, I still struggle from time to time. And this is Lancome's Grandiose Liner. I feel like it's easier to gradually pull it out if you want it to be longer, like slowly but surely than it is to start with it long, because we all know if you start with it long and you mess up, it's gonna end up at your temple. So I'm gonna drag it out further than I normally would. Like, you don't wanna start off long. Let's just see if I don't mess up. They both kind of look the same, actually. This one's a little thicker and a little bit more Princess Jasmine-y, but I don't know. Now I'm gonna add some lashes. I just got these the other day. I wanted to try them out. They are pretty thick. Like for me, if I wear lashes this thick, like they're very full and kind of layered, then the hair has to look pretty real. Like it can't look like plastic. It can't be super shiny. I think that is the line that people cross sometimes when they wear really big full lashes, is that they're too fake looking and they're too plasticky. You also will mess up if you apply them too soon. You want to make sure the glue is tacky. I cannot stress that enough. I always clean off my lashes first because I don't need anything on my lashes when I apply my falsies. Otherwise they're just in the way because they're too curly. So if you use white glue, even when I use black glue, you can see like a little bit of green in it when it's ready usually. These are called Peridot Cosmetics in the style Destiny. And for this side, I don't have no fake looking lashes laying around the house. I love me a good lash, and anytime I see a lash that looks like I give them away or throw them away. No. So I'm just gonna apply these normally, and I'm not gonna get rid of the eyeshadow fallout on my lashes because some people don't do that, and you can see it. I'm going to show you that you can see it. And I'm going to stay directly on my lashes on this side. I have pretty decent lower lashes, so I don't really need to create fake lashes or make them really messy. This is Tarte's Lights Camera Lashes. And then I blend in my real lashes with the falsies to make them nice and black so that you can't see them. But on this side, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to apply some to my bottom lashes. Not being really precise because some people always have mascara underneath their lower lashes just because they're being pretty messy with it. I know some people who do it on purpose just to make their lashes look fuller, but sometimes it can look a little messy if you don't do it the right way. Doing this, where I'm just brushing down and letting the lashes hit my skin, is going to make a mess under there. You really just want to softly whisk them over your hairs so that they don't touch your skin and they look nice and clean, unlike Lucy over here. And this is what a close-up of the do and the don't eyes look like. So finally, the do's and don'ts for the lips. I feel like the only time I see lips that are a little off is when I feel like the color is maybe too light or too pasty or too ashy. But like I said, it's preference. So instead of just putting on a pale pink lipstick and being like, don't do that, when some people like pale pink lipstick, I decided to use ombre lips as an example. So on this side, I'm gonna do a nice ombre. I'm using the shade Ellarie from ColourPop and Immortal Hydra Matte from Gerard Cosmetics. And I'm using the pencil flat. That way it's easier to blend out. And I'm staying inside of my natural lip shape. Of course, if you have thinner lips and you choose to go outside, that's your deal. You want to make sure it's kind of blended out so that it blends into the color that you use. On this side, however, instead of saying inside my lip line, I'm going to go a little outside my lip line. People often like to do this to make their lips look fuller, but if not done right, it can look a little tragic. Alright, now I'm going to add the lippy. Now I'm going right over the liner and blotting my lips together. On this side, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to take my time blending it, which I feel like is necessary, especially, let me clean that, especially since I went outside my lip line. So as you can see on this side, since I stayed in the lines to my natural lip shape, I make sure the lipstick kind of blended in with the liner by going over with a wand, or you can always use a lip brush and blot your life away just so that they kind of mesh into each other and marry into each other really good. On this side, I pretty much overlined my lips and put the lipstick over without really taking that time to blend the colors into each other. Over here, I'm looking like really nice, sexy pinup girl. Everything is like nice and blended. And over here, I'm looking like Chella from the 90s. Like, it's too much. It's too much. Okay, so yeah, here's the difference. It's not as drastic as I thought it was gonna be. And basically this tutorial was just to show you like some common mistakes people make when it comes to application or when it comes to their shades that they choose. Like, this is you, go for it. Just minor tweaks and it could look much more natural, much more put together, you know. So if you learned anything from this tutorial, make sure you guys go ahead, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, until next time, love you guys. Mwah.